You are listening to another AlwaysMoto production. The AlwaysMoto Podcast with your host, David Hogan. We talk moto events from around the world. All the injuries, all the training ins and outs, the bikes, parts and gear inspections. The results, we interview your favourite riders. It's the AlwaysMoto Podcast. We occasionally have some coarse language and the odd stuff up along the way. If you don't like it or you don't agree with us, turn it off right now.
I'd like to remind you that he is not a
doctor. That's right, Moto fans. I'm not a doctor, but I am a physiotherapist, and this is episode 138 of the AlwaysMoto Podcast, proudly brought to you by Elite Moto Australia and TechnicMotorsport.com. I'm your host, David Hogan, the physiotherapist who knows the injuries and fitness needs of our sport of motocross and supercross. But we go through everything and anything moto here on this show because everything is always moto here on the AlwaysMoto network. This week's show, we're going to cover a bunch of topics. We've got AMA Supercross updates. We've only got 3 rounds to go. We're heading to Pittsburgh for the first time, I think, ever, if I've read that correctly, for the notes for this week's Supercross showdown in the AMA. We've got ProMX this weekend. Round 3 is kicking off in Gilman, so we're going to have a look at the results from Appen, talk about what's going to happen here at Gilman. Plenty to happen on this show, and if we get the chance, we'll find out a little bit later, but we're hopefully going to have our man from Finance My Bike, Anthony Wakeham, joining us as well. Give a little update on what he's been up to after we spoke to him on last episode as well. But hey, Moto fans, this episode it is brought to you by Elite Moto Australia, the ultimate gear and protection solution for riders seeking top-notch safety and style. From head to toe, Elite Moto has you covered with innovative helmets, goggles, body armor, and more. Head over to elitemoto.com.au and gear up for your next ride. Now, don't forget our other sponsors. They include TechnicMotorsport.com, PivotPegs.com, Competitive Edge Performance, and Tech 167 3D Printing. You'll hear more about these companies throughout our shows here on the AlwaysMoto Network, and we just choose those along the way to tell you a little bit about them in different shows. But as always, we do need your support direct here at AlwaysMoto. We have our T-shirts available. They are $25 plus postage and handling. Email us at info@alwaysmoto.com. Put a T-shirt order in the subject line and send through your size, and we'll be in touch regarding payment via PayPal and delivery details. Speaking of PayPal, you can send a donation direct. Maybe you don't want a T-shirt, that's fine, but you can still directly donate to the AlwaysMoto Podcast via the PayPal account. And to find all of those supporters, discount codes for those pages as well, and much more, you need to follow the links in our show notes or in our bio on our social pages to get straight to those and to do the donation via PayPal. All right, enough with the intro talk. Let's get straight into this show.
Hey, I'm Bubba Pauly from the MadParts.com Kawasaki Supercross race team, and you're listening to the AlwaysMoto Podcast.
All right, guys and girls, let's get into this thing here, the AlwaysMoto Podcast. East Rutherford was run and won, and what a dominating performance it was in the 450 class from Chase Sexton in that main event. Chase Sexton won that one. He's made this title get a little bit tighter, but the basic math here is that he has to win every Supercross event, main event, for the last 3 rounds, and Cooper has to finish second or worse for him to at least tie or basically get the win outright. So if they tie on points, Chase will get it based on the fact he's won more main events. But at this point in time, Cooper has to beat Chase at least once. But after that weekend's domination, we'll have to see what's going to be on the cards here, because Chase definitely has found some mojo in the last few weeks here. He's definitely had the better of the last 2 rounds of Cooper Webb. Now, what will Cooper be able to do this weekend in Pittsburgh is going to be a very interesting one. This track is going to be very sticky. The dirt that they've been putting in there, as per the pictures from the Super Motocross track team, is very dark and brown. Like, not just that lighter color, that baked California color that you get. Well, obviously we're on the East Coast with Pittsburgh. This is very chocolate colored. So I'm thinking this weekend's going to be a weekend for Yamaha and Cooper Webb. and less so KTM and Chase Sexton. But Chase is on a roll. What can he do with that? But Cooper Webb's got to find something here. He's got to break this streak. He has to do it once. But there is also then still the chance of weather in these next 3 rounds because they are all 3 are open air venues. Pittsburgh being East Coast, probably a bit more so. But you just never know with the weather. So there's plenty to go on here yet in this championship. What's interesting to note is that they have definitely separated themselves from the rest of the field. The only riders that are sort of in the space to challenge them in the early parts of the events anyway is Aaron Plessinger. Justin Barsh has been getting himself a bit more closer to the front here, but probably not in the chance of a win unless of weather at the moment. But he's in fighting chance of a podium. Plessinger, on the other hand, could upset this apple cart here and potentially gap these 2 riders, Chase and Cooper, given the right circumstances for Plessinger. Maybe one of these guys has a bad start or something. He's got a chance to win it, but also then, depending on who's there, be a spoiler in terms of finishing second and split those riders. So outside of that, the field has definitely thinned over the past recent weeks. Kenny Roxon obviously still battling his way through that shoulder injury and ankle injury, and is a bit hit and miss in those recent weeks. He's got a podium, but also not been able to challenge for the full distance of the events, potentially because of these injuries that are giving him some grief. Now, each week that goes past, he should be getting a little better and a little better, depending on whether he needs some future work, because he might not be able to reach full recovery without it. We don't know the full details of those injuries, and so whether that's then impacting him still moving forward. He's potentially going to have, and I spoke about this one of the other shows, but he potentially just rides this out, gets his 3rd in the championship, gets his nice, championship bonus, and then has some work done during the early parts of outdoors and just misses those rounds because he would do that anyway. So, I don't think he's really challenging for the win or a second at this point. He's a 3rd, 4th at best at the moment, given his condition, unfortunately. Hate saying that for Kenny because I'm a big fan of Ken Roxon's style and performance, and the fact he's on a Suzuki kind of helps as well. I like that too. But the 450 class, it's definitely down to those 2 men, Chase Sexton, Cooper Webb. So who's your champion? At this point, I like the fact that Cooper is in front. I don't like the fact that Chase is dominating these recent wins, but this weekend is telling what will happen, because I think Cooper has to break this streak here to have a chance at maintaining this position of the championship leader. And I don't like his chances of doing it at Denver or Salt Lake City. Those venues, baked tracks, altitude, I feel that would be beneficial for Chase, maybe just a little bit more so than Cooper. But we will see. Cooper is a gamer. He knows he's down to the last few punches of this series. He will find something. It's just a matter of, will he find it enough, and will he find it soon enough? So we'll see how that plays out. Now, on the East Coast side of things for the 250s, what a turn of events in recent times. Seth Hammaker has established himself as a real player here. He's the sole championship points leader now heading into this weekend's race in Pittsburgh, with only one other round left remaining for his coast to do, which will be a showdown with the West Coast. So Seth Hammaker has only got a 3-point gap, but he's definitely been showing some consistency. Now, that's obviously different from previous seasons where he's crashed out, got injured very regularly, or even at the beginning of the series, he unfortunately got some food poisoning. Now, without that food poisoning, he might have a decent points lead here if that wasn't the case. So, well done to Seth Hammaker. Well done to the team and the changes that Seth has made in the recent off-season to improve his technique, improve his fitness, his all-around riding ability. Things have definitely taken an upswing. I'm curious to see what this is. If the team can do this, one, it's going to be the first Pro Circuit Supercross Championship in, I think it was Justin Hill was the last one, which is a long time ago. But I'm interested to see what Seth Hammaker then puts together in the outdoors. If he's able to do this in the Supercross arena, I'm very curious as to what he's capable of outdoors. Now, outdoors in the 250 class is going to be an interesting prospect. You're going to have Deegan, obviously, as the defending champ. But what's Cole Davies going to do? What's Seth Hammaker going to do? What is Chance Hymas going to do? And what will Max Anstey do Tom Vial, dude. There is so many names here that are potential championship threats. Joe Shimoda, that will really be turning this up. So 250 outdoors is a mouth-watering prospect at this point, but obviously we've got to get to that far just yet. We have the potential to unfortunately lose a few of them in the meantime as well. So what do we see from Seth Haymaker here? Is he just going to get this championship done? Is he the man of the minute that will turn into the man of the hour? We'll see. But I like what I've been seeing from Seth Haymaker. The only person who's really capable of doing something here, RJ Hampshire and Tom Vial. RJ Hampshire's got to hold it together, but he's battling through wrist pain that he's going to potentially have some work done post this Supercross season to try and alleviate the issues he's having. So can he work his way through that pain to a level that will allow him to compete and beat Seth Haymaker? He's been able to do it, but is it getting worse in this situation now as the season goes longer? Don't know. For Tom Vial, it's a case of he's actually got to pull his finger out, in my opinion, and win the next two races. And that will then just turn things around, because then no matter what anybody else does, he will have covered that without issue. Now, he doesn't have to necessarily win the final round. He just has to finish first of the East Coast guys in that showdown. But a win would be much nicer because it would make it so much easier. So will he be able to do that? Now, that is the big question. The other question we have, West Coast side of things, they're obviously not racing this weekend, but they will return the following weekend in Denver and then the showdown. Now, Hayden Deegan has been obviously leading this from the front. Julian Beaumere has been in second, but he's dropped down in recent weeks. I wonder if that shoulder has finally started to take some effect to him, and he's maybe not riding training as frequently as he wants to, or if he's just having some, growing pains in terms of second year on the bike, doing the full season, under the pressure, learning new tracks, all that sort of stuff, new surfaces. Is he just working his way through those things and he'll be better, for the next year? Don't know. But Cole Davies has definitely found his feet in the second half of this season. The couple of wins on the trot, he's now second in the championship. I believe he's 15 or 17 points down from Deegan. Now, that's a big gap to make up, but it is possible with that showdown. What I don't think is possible is him doing anything more than a win and Deegan a second or a third in Denver, which would mean he'd still be 10 points plus out of the lead. So it's not over, but it's very difficult for Cole from here. But what Cole can do is just get in everybody's head even further by winning the next two rounds. And if he does do that, man, is he going to be unstoppable in Supercross the following year so long as he's healthy. But he's got to get there. And then what can he show in the outdoors as well? Because everyone's questioning his outdoor skills at this point. He's progressed a hell of a lot in Supercross, and I think everybody is eager to see what he does outdoors, because if he's able to be a podium guy outdoors as well and progress his season in a similar manner over that motocross series as he has this Supercross series, oh man, is Super Motocross playoff time going to be awesome for Cole Davies. So things he's got to work towards, things he's got to stay healthy for. He's just got to remain on the bike, and I think he's in with a big, big chance. All right, that's enough for the AMA Supercross. Let's head over to the Pro MX, and we have round 3 happening this weekend in South Australia at the Gilman track. We are 3 rounds deep in this 8-round series this year. And look, the conditions in Gilman are going to be a lot different than what we've had in the opening 2 rounds. We obviously had the clay track at Appin. We had a regular sort of, I wouldn't say it was loamy, but it's a bit loamy down there in Wonthaggi. But Gilman is going to be almost a sand track. So very soft, loamy conditions are going to be facing us, which I think will be favouring in the 450 class at least. Kyle Webster being that West Coast guy from Perth and sand tracks over there. In the 250s, I think Brodie Conley is favoured for everything at the moment. He's just whooping ass in that class. Now, yes, he did get a penalty at that recent one, but I don't think that was... look, that was contentious. Let's put it that way. Feel free to send me your thoughts on it, but I don't know if anybody would have... nobody's going to be wrong in the situation because you can see a case for both sides. But it was contentious, put it that way. Now, as we go to Gilman, We've obviously got some good coverage coming up. We'll talk about that later in the show of how to watch it. But Gilman is actually 20 minutes north of Adelaide, so it's fairly close for anyone wanting to fly in and check it out. But obviously it's only a short drive out of Adelaide, so we should get plenty of spectators joining it. We've obviously got our MX1, MX2, and our MX3 class, but we also have our MXW class competing this weekend as well. So that's awesome to see. In the MX1 side of things, obviously Jed Beaton is out in front in the championship after he's gone 2-1-2-2 in the 4 motos so far. But what has happened is Kyle Webster went 1 DNF 1-1. So Jed Beaton's got that little gap at the front of the series here, but it is down to about 19 points, whatever it is now. But is there enough time and is there enough wriggle room for Kyle Webster to get himself back into this? It's going to take him a few rounds to get level, if at all, with Jed Beaton. Now, at the moment, Luke Clout is in second, a point ahead of Kyle Webster, but I don't expect that to stay that way for too long. Now, I hate to say it, but Jed Beaton and Kyle Webster are definitely a step above the rest of the field this year in this class. And that's evident by their gaps to the rest of the field each moto. And the ability that they have had to sort of start with those guys, and then by the halfway mark of the moto, they're gone. Right? They've moved through the pack, they're out to the front, and then they're gone. There is a good 10-second plus gap each over the couple of rounds from first, second to third and fourth. Now, that's been Luke Clout and Nathan Crawford and Kirk Gibbs there or thereabouts as well. But there is definitely a big gap. Now, hopefully Crawford and Clout will be better in Gilman as well. But like I said, I still don't think they're on the level of Webster in that surface. And Beaton should be good in this surface as well with his European time that he's been away. Now, speaking of Beaton and time away in Europe, that's not going to be on the case for him anymore. He's basically set himself as a homebody now. He's re-signed with CDR Yamaha for 2 more years, which is an awesome deal for CDR Yamaha. They have a title contender in the Pro Motocross for the next 2 years, definitely with Jed Beaton. So well done to Jed and well done to CDR for that signature. I was just curious. I thought that Jed might be looking to head back over there if the ride's presented, but obviously he's quite comfortable with the setup here, obviously getting a decent wicket there with wage side of things. And obviously as well, he was comfortable enough with Supercross last year to take on that whole season again, you know, with the team for the next 2 years, Motocross and Supercross. So that is awesome as well. Now, in the MX2 class, it's been an interesting run. Obviously, we had that little penalty for Brodie Conley, excuse me, that dropped him from the overall win there in Appen. But outside of that, he's been the man that's been unstoppable. Yes, Yamaha's Ryder Kingsford has been right there charging and battling with him, but Conley's sort of had the gap on him just enough in all of these 4 motos so far. But interesting enough, we do have a local man who's been in the contention here heading to this round as well. Alex Larwood on the NFAL Honda is going to be definitely someone to watch this weekend. Will he be up there with Kingsford and Conley? It's quite possible in this surface, but I still feel he's definitely a podium threat. We'll have to see how we go for the rest of it after that, but it will be worth watching that side of things. The other one to keep an eye on as well is somebody that's building in these opening few rounds. He's stepped up from MX3 last year, and it's Bulk Nutrients Yamaha's team, Seth Birchall. Birchall got a 6th. He's 6th overall at the moment, but he was on the podium there in Appen as well. So things are moving forward for Seth Birchall, and I'm curious to see if he can continue to step up across the season as he gets more and more comfortable in the MX2 class. So keen to see how Birchall continues to grow this year in MX2. But I think that about covers us for this part of the show. We are going to take a break, and we're going to come back with our next segment.
This is Derek Kelly, and you're listening to the AlwaysMoto Podcast.
All right, let's get back into this section of the show. We're going to have our man coming in from wherever it is he's in this part of the week, Anthony Wakeham from Finance My Bikes. He's travelling out and about doing all these events Australia-wide at the moment. Anthony's on the line. How are we doing, Anthony, and where are you this week, mate?
Hey, mate, good. I'm out at currently a little place called Corryong, which is, well, not obviously, but in Victoria, for the Kosciuszko Killer, round one of the Australian Hard Enduro Series.
Yeah, obviously that's Hard Enduro, but that name just scares me to begin with. Like the fact that it's got Killer in the name and Kosciuszko, meaning it's a big mountain, can't be good for the for everybody else heading down there, to tackle that. It sounds ominous.
Mate, as you drive into Corryong, it's a beautiful little town. It is a small little country town.
Mm-hmm.
You drive through it. It's lovely. You go around a couple of corners, 5 kilometres up the road, round one really sharp bend, and then bang. It's
up.
Just obscene how steep these hills are. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, for hard enduro, that sounds like perfect country land. So, that's what you're into. But we'll get to that one in a second. But you've been out in Victoria for a couple of weeks now. When we caught up with you, you're down there just finishing after the Australian Enduro Championship last week when we spoke with Will as well. But you stayed down there. You had a hill climb event that you randomly found. And I want to find out about it because I kind of like the idea that these things are still around in Australia as well. So how was the hill climb event, mate?
It was a blast. It was, first of all, the sun came out, which was amazing because I had literally 2.5, 3 weeks of rain. So the fact that the sun actually came out was fantastic. The Alexandra and District Club, I think they're an older club, but I think they're going through a bit of a rebirth, which, as we've all seen that happen. They put on a few different events there, but yeah, as you said, this one was the hill climb, and it was just one of those ridiculously fun, competitive but non-competitive days, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So what type of, obviously when we say hill climb straight away, you just think of, well, I flash back to thinking like I'm a little bit older here and I was brought up on this sort of thing, but on any Sunday movies and they're just trying to get to the top of the biggest hill that they could get to. But there's different forms of hill climb racing, and I'm curious what these guys did as sort of the format of the day. Was it one long climb? Was it a bit of a snake and it was a time section? What did they do?
So it was pretty basic, but it was still very well run. It was all done via manual timing.
Okay.
But it was straight up and down for the most of it. The A-grade riders had a bit of a snake in it, and then basically at the start and at the finish. From memory, it was about 250, 260 metres long.
Okay, so nice and short.
Definitely steep enough that if you walked up it and you forgot your beer, you wouldn't walk back down for another one. But,
you're staying there, that's it. Yeah, you get there, I'm done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But, mate, most of everyone got up it. The only people, you might have a bobble and take a bit longer to get up it, but it was definitely doable. Most of the older juniors got up it. A couple of the younger fellas on the 60s and 80s didn't.
Okay.
But overall, mate, it was just a really good, fun stretch of a hill climb. Yeah.
How many runs did you get at this?
I think we got about 5 or 6.
Okay.
It was a pretty relaxed day. As I said, the club's going through a bit of a rebirth by the sound of it, from what I picked up anyway. That could be right or it could be wrong. But I think there was only about 30 of us or a touch over 30 of us there. But mate, it was just I can't stress it, just you have these competitions of motocross and enduro and everything like that. And this was still a competition, but the way they run the event was very relaxed and it was just so much fun.
It's kind of nice sometimes. Like obviously you've been to a lot of these bigger events. You go into the Australian Enduro Championships, you go into your Finks. There's obviously those events have lots of entries. We're talking at Fink, 600-700 depending on the year and something. HERA's a 450, I think, cap nowadays, just events. It is nice to go to some of these smaller clubs sometimes and have that sort of 50, 60, 70 riders. You just said 30 something. you feel like you're actually able to talk to some people and enjoy the moment, and it's not so rushed and like so many people trying to get into one space of track, and it is just a different vibe at those events. So you can actually just sit back and enjoy friendly competition.
Absolutely. I turn into a bit of a social recluse at some of those bigger events.
It's easy to do because it's hard to get to around to anybody and everybody at that point. So there's too many people. Yeah.
That's right. The fact that there was only a small crew was really good. I met some new people, made some new mates. It was actually a really, really good weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure you said when we talked to you before, you were going to run the Stark. I'm sure you got a few people coming up to you asking you a bit about that while you're there too.
Yeah, no, it created a lot. There was, they call it an old beards or grey beards.
Oh, nice.
They call it a grey beards class. And a lot of those, the older blokes come up and had a look at it and they hadn't seen one before and all that. So that was funny. But yeah, it was funny. There was obviously A, B, and C grade, but there was only 2 of us in C grade. So I said, let's cancel C grade. We'll all go into B grade. And I think I got one of the faster times in time 1. And they all sort of looked and said, you should be up a bit higher. And I'm like, no. Let's just wait and see. So the Stark was actually really good for it, yeah.
I bet it would. That torque on them is fantastic. And the fact that you don't really have to battle the clutch to try and keep the revs up to get going at different points if you did bog down on the hill. Yeah, you would have had a nice little advantage there, mate.
Well, yeah, I just couldn't take advantage of it.
Okay, fair enough. It had it in the bag. I just didn't want to take it out.
There's still a fair bit of rider input.
Yes, that does help sometimes, definitely. No, so was there anybody at this? Were they all on just standard sort of, enduro model bikes, or did any of them have any, custom extended swing arms and stuff? Because that's what I think of when I think of hill climbs. You see the American guys and they've got stupid size engines and stupid size swing arms, but did they have anything like that down at this event, or was it just more a casual bring what you ride?
I think there was an 890.
Oh yeah.
That was sort of cut down into a 690 or something like that. That wasn't a formal part of the event because it just wasn't, just due to rules and regulations, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got, all clubs have got to be careful with how they promote these events and what they do and don't do and who they let run and don't run. And we want to keep the sport going. So it was a bit sad that we didn't see that running, but there was a couple of cool bikes there. There was Chris Perry on his Sherco,
okay,
which is set up for hard enduro.
Yep.
So that was good to see him there. And then there was also Wade Ibrahim. He was there on his bike as well. And those bikes aren't really built to go stupid fast, but obviously being the guys that they are, they still got, I think, first and second for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but no, there was nothing heavily modified or anything like that, mate, unfortunately, no. But as I said, the club's going through a rebirth. I think there's definitely growth for it. I think if anyone's listening, they could like the club or follow the club and potentially get out to the next one because it was a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like it. And obviously, like you said, smaller amount of people there. It just makes for a bit more friendly and easy environment to be a part of. So yeah, obviously check them out if you're in that sort of area. Now, what part of Victoria was that again? Because I seem to remember that you had to go and find that one on RiderNet for upcoming events.
Yeah, so that was the Alexandra and District Motorcycle Club, and that was basically the main centre was a little town called Alexandra. There was a few little towns around it, but that's, if you're looking for it, it's the town of Alexandra.
Yeah, nice.
Couple of pubs, couple of bakeries, just a standard little town, yeah.
Sounds perfect. A couple of pubs and a couple of bakeries. There we go. And a bike track. So, yeah, can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, now you've travelled across the state a little bit, I gather, because you're in a different part of town for the Australian Hard Enduro Championship this weekend. It's round 1, Kosciuszko Killer. It's a 2-day event, isn't it? I believe these are all year with these 5 rounds that they've got going on. Now, you were a part of this last year, I gather, Anthony?
I did ride all 5 rounds. I think we had 5 rounds last year.
Mm-hmm.
I use the term ride because I only enter these races. I'm not really that competitive at all.
Look,
if anyone does follow me, they'll... but yeah, so last year was a learning season.
Mm-hmm.
And this year we're hoping to do a bit better. But yeah, mate, as you said, 2-day event, which is really well set up and run. It's actually some of the more well thought out events that I've been to.
Okay.
Greg Peterson from the AMCA puts these events on. He has for the last couple of years, and they're getting better and better and better each time. On the Saturday, we have a junior prologue, which runs, I think it's around roughly half an hour for the juniors.
Yeah, right. That's a decent
And-
prologue length.
Yep. And then the seniors all do a 45-minute prologue. And so we go bronze. So juniors at the start of the day, bronze, then silver, then gold.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically A, B, and C grade. And then the juniors, they get to race in the afternoon on Saturday, yeah.
Now, when you're talking about those classes, I was having a bit of a look around on the Australian Hard Enduro racing site just to remind myself of some of the details. Like, I've done Wildwood a couple of years back, but I haven't done anything really since in that space. I've got a couple of mates that go and do these as well. But I was checking out the classes and I had to laugh when it came to picking the classes section, and you go to the gold. It goes gold for most riders in Australia means in brackets, in inverted commas, impossible to ride. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right.
Mate, it's crazy. And just to backtrack a bit, at the hill climb, Wade Ibrahim was good enough to take me on a quick little trail ride on the Saturday afternoon, and some of the stuff he went up and down, it was just, I was just nowhere. I've spent the last couple of days here at the site and helped the guys mark a bit out and walked around a bit, and some of the stuff that they're making these guys do is, you just don't want nothing to do with it. It's just, it's obscene.
Are we talking like rock step ledges uphill, or what are we talking about here? Like, give us some context of what's the impossible aspect of these tracks that they're putting them into.
Mate, if I was a fit young ADHD kid that was 12 years old wanting to go and expel some energy, I don't think I'd get up it.
Yeah, right.
The stuff that these guys do and are expected to do is just, it just has to be seen to be believed. The good news is there's rumours, and they're only rumours, but I think Greg has put on a media team, or he's got a lot of other people involved this year to get a lot better footage and to grow the sport. So in the next week or two, we're going to see really what these guys can do. They're world-class riders. Those gold-class guys are world-class riders.
Yeah, look, some of them have actually done some of those international sort of events as well. I seem to recall, like, I want to say Wade and Anthony have done some stuff overseas, but I can't remember which ones off the top of my head right now that you're bringing that up. But yeah, look, those
I think
guys
they all have, mate, and I think a couple of them are going over this year as well. And I met a young fella here who's helping mark out the track, young Hudson Atkins, I think his name is, and he's actually going over to help mark the track for Romaniacs in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Anthony's done Erzberg, but like I said, I can't remember exactly which ones. Erzberg and Romaniacs are the two main ones that most of these guys go and do. But yeah, they're definitely capable of doing it and capable of getting, reasonable results in those international events, let alone obviously they're front running in our series here. But it's good that these events here in Australia are actually giving them the skills and the challenges to then be able to go and do those international events as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they're not half-arsing it, that's for sure here. If you're at the top level, you're at the top level. That's all there is to it.
Now, obviously the gold one, they said impossible, but I did say that the bronze is the entry class. Now, are you running the bronze, or are you running there's like silver and bronze over 45s classes as well? So are they same tracks and stuff then as well?
So there's one main track that everyone does, and then every 100 metres, 200 metres, wherever it is, there'll be a couple of arrows and some bunting to go to gold.
Sure.
Or some bunting and some arrows to go to silver. And then you stay on the bronze track. By no means is that easy. A lot of people don't even do one lap of the courses sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Especially down here. There's one section down here at Corryong at the Kosciuszko Killer called the Rocky Mile. And Greg, in the rider's briefing, does stipulate that some people will not even get past the Rocky Mile.
Yeah, right.
So,
okay. Serious business.
It's just because it's entry level, it's still tough. I don't actually like it when people say entry level.
Well, it's not like it's entry level, but it's also the series is called the Australian Hard Enduro Championship for a reason. So, you know, there's nothing entry level about it. You've got to be capable to go and do these things, but they are obviously got different levels within the course itself. But yeah, none of it's super. There's nothing smooth about it, sort of thing. So.
No. There's not a lot of rest periods, that's for sure.
So what's the Sunday side of things? I've seen here that's basically like a 4-hour cross country, essentially, I gather, but it's based on how many laps you get done or how far somebody gets as the winner, not so much the time completion, is it?
After pro, well, it's a bit of both.
Bit of both. Okay, go on.
It goes off prologue. And I think the top 5 or 10 guys, and I should know more about it, but the top 5 or 10 guys go 30 seconds or apart, and they're obviously in gold. And then it moves down into silver, 5 or 10 riders at a time, and then moves down into bronze, 5 or 10 riders at a time.
Okay.
You basically the track opens, I think, at 8:30, and I think it shuts at 11:30 from memory. And you've got to be clear of the track by 2:00 or 2:30. And my apologies if the times aren't exactly right, but it's after the event, so no one's taking this too seriously by the time they listen to this.
No, yeah, exactly. Look, but you basically, from what I read, you basically got that right. It's 4 hours the track's open, and you got 3 hours to complete that last lap. Essentially, from the rules I was reading. So. Yeah, you're pretty well spot on there. But that last lap, if you're taking 3 hours to get through it, 1, you're probably absolutely trashed. But 2, you're probably stuck somewhere pretty decent as well. So
That's right. Last year was the first hard enduro I did, and it was the Kosciuszko Killer. I came back into time control with maybe 5 or 10 minutes to spare.
Yep.
So I could have, legally gone out and done a second lap, but I had zero interest.
Yeah.
Going back out.
There's a point where the body says no, right?
Absolutely. The goal this year is to do a second lap.
Okay.
But obviously on the Stark, we're hoping to be able to come back in time to charge it a little bit to get back out and do that second lap. But, the course is not going to be the same as it was last year. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, yeah.
Well, I feel like these series is starting to cater for more of those extreme sort of athletes. You know, those ones that are then out setting themselves the goal of doing a marathon run, or they want to do their first Olympic length triathlon and stuff, or those ultra marathons and things. Those people that are there, they're not necessarily there for I'm going to win the race, but they're the ones that are challenging themselves to go that lap further, go that, under the, for marathon, go under 3 hours, go under 4 hours, whatever your goal is. This is what this series is probably starting to cater towards, where you, like you've just said, I did 1 lap last year. My goal this year is to do 2. And that's your ultimate challenge for this event, is to, get through a bit more than you did last year. And that's how you're gauging success in this race.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are doing that. If you do complete 1 lap of the course, whether it be this one or any of the other couple of rounds, you are classed as a finisher.
Yeah, right.
So there's no the only way you get a DNF is if you don't get to a lap. So it does cater to a lot of people. It caters to, I'm in the over 40s class, which I'm still struggling to get my head around. But sorry, mate. I just had a mind blank then.
You're right.
So we'll start again. You'll have to cut that one, hopefully.
We'll leave that in for sure. No.
Sorry, that was like a stroke. Hang on, we'll start again. So there's a few women actually starting to enter the event. There is a lot of women that are interested, but I think that they're scared, and rightly so. It is a hard event. I think we've got 6 women entrants for the first round. So hopefully word can get out. I do know a few of them that did finish last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it is doable. It is doable. It's not easy, but it is doable. And if you can tick that off, whether it be the bucket list or, as you said, just like a weekend marathon run, where it's a testing yourself of, physical and mental capability, it's it's a good thing.
Well, I think too, like part of this is like obviously trying to grow it and just generally motorcycling and off-road motorcycling. But these sorts of events, obviously people are a little bit concerned to just jump in and enter without much information. One, obviously us talking about it is giving people information. But two, when you have somebody that you know that's done it and can tell you, that they were able to do X amount of it, and then you know what their skill level is versus your skill level, it makes you feel more comfortable to enter it. And hopefully by those, those 5-6 women that you said that are entering this opening round, they then do it. They then go talk to their other female rider friends, and they go, comparably, you're this to me. I got this far. You would get that far too, sort of thing. It then allows people to go, I've got some good intel about the event. I reckon I can have a crack at it now. You've got to have enough people to do it to then go and spread the word to other people to show that they're capable as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's one of those things where it is still relatively a new sport in Australia. I mean, it's a discipline of our sport in Australia. It's only been going for 5 or 6 years, I believe. Again, I could be wrong. Don't shoot me. But that's not a very long time. So to get, I think he's got about 250 riders maybe coming this weekend.
That's a good roll up, really, for
growing.
this sort of event. Like that's pretty good numbers to have, because it's a niche group of people for this event.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's like badminton. Like, who plays that? Like, who in their right mind does it?
What sport's that? No, sorry. I only know 2-wheeled sports here, Anthony. Sorry, mate. It's always moto for a reason, right?
But it is. It is a test of physical and mental capability. It's hard, but I love it. It's I'm not competitive in it, but going back on what you said, being able to finish like a 40K marathon or something like that the feeling you get on the drive home is amazing.
Yeah, it's still the challenge, isn't it? And knowing you achieve something that you set out to do. So that's the part in it as well. Now, other side of this is obviously setting up a bike. One, we're talking about, comparing people's riding skills to be able to do it and knowing the formats and whatnot, but bike setup in these sorts of different events helps immensely, and obviously we end up with guys doing weird things to mooses and gummy tires and stuff. But have you learnt from last year and done anything particular to your bike this time around, or are you just winging it with what you've got from the last weekend's events?
Okay, so I was always this is quite funny, but I was always against mooses, and the main reason. Come on. The main reason was because I could never change a tyre.
That's a fair call, actually. Yeah.
Change a tyre. And you'll find you go to bike shops, they don't want to do it either.
No. This has got to be done in your own shed with your own tools, because nobody will. You can't really pay anybody to do it unless you've got a really nice friend that I do my neighbour's ones for him when it comes up. So, yeah, anyway, go on.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of the tubeless wheel tyre system.
Yeah.
Purely because if I get a flat when I'm on the trail, you can plug them and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, though, a good mate of mine who unfortunately isn't coming to this weekend, Luke Ramsey, Chicken Wing on Instagram.
Okay.
He actually helped me. He basically taught me how to change mooses.
Yep, nice.
And I'm almost converted. So I had run mooses for a chunk of last year in the front, and still my tubeless in the rear.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the guys, when they get these mooses, they drill them out with a hole saw or they shave them down anyway.
Yeah.
And I just can't get my head around it. These mooses, some of these good quality moose tubes, they're costing $250, $300.
You're talking
and they're
my
brand new,
right now.
and they're attacking them with either a jigsaw or a hole saw.
I can't believe it when they do that stuff. Obviously, some of these guys are getting them, on a sponsorship deal, either for free or very reduced price, because when I have to pay that full price for them, I try and figure out how to make those things last. The last thing I want to do is be taking a hole saw to it and putting like 20 holes in it.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, all they're doing is stopping the rim hitting the logs and the rocks. They want their flattest tyre possible so they can get the most amount of traction, and they just don't want to damage their rim. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, very true.
So, so I can see the method behind it. I still don't like it, so I still like my tubeless, even though I'm running Moose balls now. For the sprint events. So I'm almost converted. The Moose balls are actually really quite good because you can take one or two out and it changes the tyre pressure.
You've softened it up massively.
So I'm still not drilling into them, which makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But mate, I'll be running a tubeless this weekend on the rear and probably a Moose on the front. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as everything else, mate, I just soften everything up. I've put a couple of grab straps on the bike, some wraparound bark busters.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with the Stark, there's not a lot of protective gear yet with swing arms and frames and all that sort of stuff. So I'm a bit concerned about how the girl's going to look after the weekend, but is what it is.
Yeah, look, that's obviously for most people outside of Stark riders, but that's probably the big one, isn't it? Like getting bash plates, radiator guards, some swing arm, the plastic like Polysports and Chirby's do different protective items for swing arms and frames and engine cases and whatnot, because 9 times out of 10 this bike is going to end up on the ground probably a few times throughout the event, aren't they?
Well, the thing about the ground here is sometimes it's a 60 or 70 degree angle. So you're not even on the ground, but still on the ground because the off cambers are that hard. So absolutely. Look, it is hard on bikes. It's a toss up whether you spend the money on the protective gear or whether you just trash the bike and get rid of it. But setup is a personal thing, I guess. Last year when I rode the series with my KTM 150 two-stroke,
oh yeah,
I had all the gear on it, and it's still a used bike at the end of the year. So what do you do?
You can't really stop it. If you're going to ride the bike, it's going to be used. So yeah,
absolutely.
It's one of those things. It's going to look a little bit worse for wear no matter what you've done with it. So that's part of it. But what about, all right, so that's bike setup for yourself. And we touched on some of those things that those other guys are going to do. And yeah, they're going to attack mooses and stuff, but they're going to run gummy tires as a main pit and protect the bike. What about physical prep? You're saying like these laps can take you quite some time to get completed, and for some people, very long time. Are we running mooses? Are we carrying any tools in case we, fall off and break something? What have you got on the body that you're carrying throughout, and is there any, supplements that you're taking along the way to try and extend the range of the physical capabilities of yourself for these things as well?
So obviously is the obvious one. You can't not have the water. I'll actually run a bit of a product similar to Hydrolite. Just get it from the chemist. So I'm not going to plug it. I don't know what it's actually called.
Generic brand.
Yeah. But I'm open to sponsorship. So I will run that because it takes its toll on you, this one. So hydration is obviously a must. And anyone that's done the hard enduro circles or has followed it knows that they've seen people have to withdraw really quite quickly and easily if you don't supplement yourself with water, essentially. That's the main one. A lot of these guys, they use the Enduro gels or Duragels as they're heading around. They're basically instant carbs.
Yeah,
I'll definitely get a few of them into me as well. Big break. As far as tools, etc.,
you probably don't need too many this time around, do you, with the Stark? So
no, mate. I mean, like, I'm not going to bust a radiator. I'm not going to overheat the bike, hopefully. But mate, yeah, I'll take a plug kit for the tubeless tire, and I've got some spare levers, and that's about it for me, mate. Yeah, a really basic little toolkit, but some of the guys, they'll take tubes. Again, as we discussed before, most people will be wearing mooses and things like that to try and lighten the load stuff. Anyway in their backpack. But everyone's a bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Well, I
Mate,
guess
I've seen some guys out there having a cigarette. Like they're crazy. You just don't know what you're going to see sometimes.
this is the beauty of off-road events. When you're out in the bush, anything sort of goes at that point. Whatever gets you through to the end is the main aspect of the game. So it doesn't matter. Some people it's a cigarette, some people it's a water bottle. So
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But look, I guess from the series point of view and potentially who's going to be up front again going into this year, we've got the defending champ Anthony Sola from last year's coming back, obviously, to go again. Ruben Chadwick as well. Wade Ibrahim, who you mentioned before, who you had a little ride with as well. And I think you said before you hit record as well, Chris Perry was out with that ride as well. So there's the top 4 guys in there. And they're all, a part of the series again this year. So there's something to look forward to there as well.
Yeah, and who knows what's been happening in the off season as well. Like it is such a niche sport, but with bush riding, anyone can go and do it. So it's one of those things that round 1, who knows what's going to happen.
Well, Ed, the best part of this too is that the track is what can happen in a lot of these cases too. So the rider itself might be fully prepared and ready, but they might just get stuck on one hill, and that can determine the end result. So it's not necessarily just who's the fastest in this sport; it's who can get through cleanly and continue to carry on their lap. So yeah, it's very different to just say a motocross track where who's potentially the fastest and who potentially is your favorite. Yes, we can have those couple that we just mentioned there as the favourites for the event overall, but there's so much that goes into this race that can impact who gets to that finish line first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think conditions, from what I can see in the last couple of days and what we're expecting, are going to be almost 10 out of 10. We had a light shower here at the track the other day, which really did spill the dust. There was a few spits only not even half an hour ago or an hour ago, and that's on a Wednesday. This is the Wednesday before the event, and we're actually expecting a little bit of a shower on Friday and maybe Saturday. So I don't think it's going to be a bog fest, but I don't think there's going to be too much dust. It's actually looking like it could be just prime.
Yeah, well, that will
then
nice.
Opens it up to everyone.
Well, yeah, it makes the off-road events, when there is a dust, it does sort of impact some people getting through from a mid-pack because of the vision aspect and stuff. So, but yeah, if it's a little bit moist in the soil, anyone can go anywhere. It's then a case of just who can get traction on the climbs or the rockier sections in these harder enduros, because that becomes more of the impact of you getting forward as well. So yeah, interesting to see how the weather plays into it then, if there is a few little storms just leading up to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so what after this weekend, mate? Your travelling van continues on. What's next on Anthony Wakeham, the Finance My Bike guys calendar coming up here? Because we're just about out of April. We're going to be heading into May. What's next,
mate? Sometimes it's actually really hard to know what's actually happening because I am still running the business. I am still, helping people with their purchases with bikes and cars and boats and blah, blah, blah. So it's not just all about the racing, but I'm 99% sure I'm heading to Dartmoor in the sort of southwestern part of Victoria.
Okay.
So a good 7 or 8 hours drive for where I am now. For round 2 of the Vic Off-Roads.
Oh, sure. I was just wondering what you were going to say then, like after having the chat about the hill climbs earlier and knowing that the next AEC isn't for a few weeks. I was wondering where that was going. But yeah, okay, it's the Vic Off-Road series. So nice.
Yeah. Which, I mean, even just a normal Vic Off-Road round is, mate, it's just as good as an AEC round anyway. The guys there do such a great, guys and girls, do such a great job there. I believe they've even listed some prize money for this event coming up.
Cool.
Yeah. The support for the enduro scene down in Victoria is amazing. I'm not sure how they get it or where they get it from, but the guys on the committee do a fantastic job. So
they have had a strong scene down there for a number of years now, and obviously they just get a good support. So yeah, if they're able to put up prize money, you might want to say that too loud. There'll be a few people travelling down for it if that's the case, because that doesn't happen too often.
No, you very rarely see it. I never take any notice of it because I know I've got no chance of winning it. But you do very rarely see it. It's not something that comes across our sport that often, especially in our amateur stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
With Fink and there's, obviously Supercross and ProMX, you do see it. But in our amateur stuff, mate, you don't see it that often. So the guys on the Vic Off Roads committee, deserve another pat on the back for getting that organised.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. All right, so I gather that's the first weekend in May. What else is on the calendar? Is May filled, or what do we got happening here?
Mate, May is a pretty big week, pretty big month, I should say. We've got, as I said, Dartmoor next weekend. The weekend after that, we've got round 2 of the New South Wales Off-Road Series.
Yep.
That's held up in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, in Maitland. I should be out there. I'm actually helping set up the track this weekend, so bit of fun there. We're going to be out with the hedge trimmers, so yeah, we'll be setting that up this weekend. So you'll be there. That'll be awesome.
Nice. Okay. Can I get any inside information on that one? Or
look, we can talk later. We can't put these things out on on broadcast, but yeah, we can get some inside lines or something going on here. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the start of May. Then I do have a weekend off, which I'll be welcoming. Then at the end of May, we've got round 5 and 6. You've got to call it of the Vic Off Roads at Mildura.
Yep.
Which will be a sandy event, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we'll be out there.
And yep. And then the following weekend, so the last weekend in May, we've got AORC or AEC in, I hope I say this correctly, Tintinara, which is in South Australia.
Yeah, I've got that one listed down as well. I said that one for the different part of the podcast already, and yeah, it's a fun name to say, but yeah, I think it's Tintinara, but it looks like an interesting event as well. To be on the calendar. So yeah, that'll be cool. So yeah, you've got a bit of traveling coming up, mate. You're going to be very much spreading yourself out across the country, or at least the southeastern parts of the country.
Yeah. No, the Ks on the Ford Transit are going to start to rack up pretty quick over the next 6 to 8 weeks. We're moving into June. We've got the Fink race straight after.
Yeah, because that's
straight after Tintinara. So it's good. It sort of works out. Mildura, moving over, slightly west again into South Australia, and then the weekend after that up into the Fink. So it actually works in my favour. The direction that we're going, though, yeah.
Yeah, you're following the right pathway, but yeah, you got probably a bit of a trek back for. I'm trying to think. There's another AEC in June that I can't recall where it is off the top of my head right now, but it's then you got to go back that way if you end up getting your HERA entry. So yeah, you're going to be a yo-yo for a while, mate.
Mates, the weekend after Fink is the second round of the Australian Hard Enduro Championship in Esk, Queensland, which is basically Toowoomba in Queensland. So, mate, it's a dash from basically Alice Springs back over to Toowoomba.
That's what I was gonna. Yes, that's what I was thinking. I've got the calendar back up. We didn't get to that on the hard enduro side of things, but yeah, we'll touch on it now because you've just mentioned it. But yeah, it is Esk. I don't know where Esk in Queensland is, but anyway.
So Esk is in. It's not far from Toowoomba in southeast Queensland. And I actually did a bit of riding there in my younger years, around the late teens, early 20s, and I'm not excited. It was always dusty. It was always very rocky. It was yuck. But I do know the people who own the property, and I do see little bits of Snapchat and Instagram stories every other day, and it actually does look really quite nice where they are.
Okay,
but it should be okay, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's June 14, 15 for round 2 of the Australian Hard Enduro Championship. Round 3 is actually then August, so you got a bit of a gap for that one to come back around. It's at Hillston, New South Wales for the Hillstorm Challenge. I do like the names that they've come up with these as little promo things. That's pretty cool. Round 4 is going to be at Sandy Hill, New South Wales for the Dog and Bone Extreme in September 2021. Final round 5 is at one of the dustiest, rockiest places known to man at Wattle Flat in New South Wales in Gold. It's called the Goldfields Extreme, October 25 and 26. And hopefully they've had some rain in that area because that place is bull dust at best of times. So anyway. Yeah,
Mate, we went there last year and it was piss down rain the last couple of days before the event. So again, the conditions were actually just almost perfect for that race.
You get that in the right. You got to have enough moisture in most of these places, especially in Australia. Like we dry out pretty quickly around here, but yeah, if you get moisture, most of these places are good. It's just when there's no moisture for a few weeks. Wattle Flat, I've been there numerous times, and it is dry and just powder bull dust at times, and just rock as well, because that's, for whatever reason, there's plenty of rock out that way. So yeah, but it is Absolutely. A good place to ride at if you get good conditions. But most of the times I've been there, it's not been the other way around. So
yeah. No, with the hard enduro, Greg was definitely blessed on all rounds. The conditions there was no dust at any of the rounds. Hopefully, if he's half as lucky as he was last year, this year, we'll have a good season as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, look, yeah, plenty of events there on that side of things for the hard enduro. But yeah, you've got plenty of events going every which way. So good luck with all the driving. Good luck with the hard enduro this week for the Kosciuszko Killer. We'll check in with you again next week to find out if you survived and how the event went, and we'll try and get some riders on to have their opinion as well. But yeah, good to have you on again, Anthony. And if anyone needs anything from Finance My Bike, they can check you out on Instagram and or get in touch with us on the show here, and we can provide you details as well. So yeah.
That'd be great, mate. Appreciate it. Look, just want to give a shout out to the organisers of the Hard Enduro Championship. It's a little bit harder to put on than most events, as these are working properties most of the time, whereas a lot of the other properties are owned by clubs or leased by clubs, etc., etc. So a big shout out to Greg and Denise and the team. If you can have a look at their website or jump on their Facebook, Australian Hard Enduro Championship. They're also involved in the Enduro gear. .com.au as well, and S3 Parts. They've got a few things going on. I do know they put a lot back into the sport. They're like everyone. They're all, they're running a business, but mate, the effort that these guys are putting to get this championship up and running and being a staple in the community is actually, I'm glad I get a lot more sleep than they do, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a hard work to be involved with. And yeah, their website, if you want to check out, enter, find out about the events, when they are, whatnot, hardenduro.com.au is their website. So yeah, head over there and check it out if you want to be a part of that series in some way, shape or form. All right, Anthony, we'll leave it there, mate. Good luck for the weekend, and we'll talk to you next episode.
Thanks, mate. We'll hopefully catch up in a week or so, and we'll give you a rundown on where we've been and what we've done and go from there.
Sounds good, mate. All right. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, guys. Reese Bud here, riding for Serco Yamaha, and you guys are tuning in to the AlwaysMoto podcast.
All right, guys and girls, let's jump into this week's emergency department. The emergency department. All the injuries, all the gory details, and when they'll be back on track. It's the list you really don't want to be on. Look, this list is never something you want to be a part of, and this week is even more so. A little bit humbling this week. I report on, obviously, all these injuries over the season, and there's a few different things I don't like to report on. One being, spinal injuries. They are very serious injuries, and unfortunately we have had another this season, this time at the event, which hasn't happened for a little while, but in the pro scenes that is. But we have had Chad Saltz earlier this season with a bike malfunction that caused him to become paralysed. And unfortunately this past weekend, Jerry Robin, the number 77 privateer Yamaha in the 450 class during qualifying, also had a very awkward crash in a rhythm lane and unfortunately has become paralysed. Ideally, there is some recovery that can be regained for Jerry. He's had a T3 to T9 fractures through all those vertebrae. He's had a fusion that's been completed very soon after, just trying to stabilise his spine. With that comes a lot of swelling, And obviously the spinal cord goes into shock in that period and will basically just switch off. It's kind of like it is like an electrical cord, but once the signal's interrupted, it can tend to go into shock and shut down as a protective mode. Now, the reports are that Jerry's cord is intact, but there is pieces of bone that has been left floating because they weren't able to be retrieved from what I read as the updates. So there is a chance that Jerry will recover some function here. I'm not sure how. This is very early days, obviously, here. And what he will get back to is very much unknown at this point, but we just wish Jerry all the best with his recovery. There is a Road to Recovery page set up to be able to donate to Jerry. I'll try and pop that in the show note links, so please check that out. If you can donate and support, please do so. All these guys, especially in the American side of things, they set these up because the medical system is a bit different, obviously, to the Australian side of things, where we get a lot more stuff covered, both Medicare-wise, for our public health system, and a lot of the guys have to have private insurances and private health cover, which helps cover the costs of a lot of these things. But in the American system, as much as they have those, they do have to pay a lot of this stuff up front, which they are not able to do for a period of time, and so that's why they need these GoFundMes. So look, like I said, we do these lists. We try to keep you updated on the injuries and when your favorite riders are coming back. These particular spinal injuries are never ones that I really want to report on. I do it because it's part of the sport that we need to cover all aspects. Doesn't make me feel good about it. There's been a few injuries of recent times that are making me question our sport around whether we are doing enough to keep our riders safe. And that's not just purely in the sense of protective gear. Obviously, there's a lot of discussions around, neck braces, knee braces, chest protectors, the use of those things or lack of use of by pro riders. Usually they generally don't have these things on because they're feeling a bit cumbersome in them. But these things are aspects that are needing improvement and I feel that are lacking. But then there's also things like speed of the bikes, speed of the tracks, track design, regulatory rules that aren't being implemented that could assist safety measures. There's a lot to our sport to love. There's a lot to our sport to dislike in the sense of, protecting our people that are doing it. And I feel that we can do a lot more of that. And like I said, I just feel like there's a few things recently that needs to be done a lot better. And we just aren't. For whatever reason, we just aren't. We need a real look at ourselves to see what can be changed, how it can be changed, and how quickly it can be done. Because in the grand scheme of things, at some point, and we've had these troubles here in Australia with trying to get insurances for events in recent years, the price has gone up a lot to get the insurance, and we're at the point where we almost weren't getting it. It was discussed openly a bit here at the end of last year that was a potential thing that could happen. It seems to have gone through. Nothing more has been said about it, but we are obviously under the microscope from an insurance point of view as well. And that can then lead us down the path where if we don't make changes, despite the fact that we might not like the changes that get proposed, we might not have a sport if we don't. So hopefully we can see some sense in some things and maybe reduce certain things down to reduce the risk of injury and try to get things just a little bit safer for everybody. Now, with all that being said, the main point of all this is one that Jerry's in a bit of a bad state, and if you can support him, please check out the Road to Recovery site. One, not just for Jerry, but for all the riders US-based, that Road to Recovery site, Road number 2 Recovery, is the site to go to. They generally have pages set up for each individual rider, and you can donate individually to them. So it's a very worthwhile cause. Please check it out. And in this instance, obviously look for Chad Saltz and Jerry Robin to help support them through this tough time. All right, let's have a quick look into some of the other things. Now, we're early in the week. I'm recording this on Wednesday night, obviously in Australia. This Friday is Anzac Day, so we've got public holiday. I've got some track designing to do with the club for Maitland for the New South Wales Off-Road, so I won't be around on Friday, Saturday as such, trying to get that stuff done. to help the club out and get the event run for this New South Wales Off-Roads. So I'm trying to get this done earlier. So the details that I'm going to have for this week's updates are going to be probably a little bit behind by the time they get out. I'm going to try and get this out. We're waiting on an interview to be done. We'll maybe get this out Thursday. At the worst, it'll be Friday morning before we head off to that. But so the information here, we're just going to have a bit of a recap of some of the last few rounds because we missed a couple of these. We haven't had regular podcasts here at the moment. And obviously, like we said, we're trying to still get you over to our YouTube channel. Haven't been regular there either recently. Trying to get things back on track here as we head to outdoors. But let's just talk about from Philly through East Rutherford. So in Philadelphia, we had a couple of injuries. We had Daxton Bennick from the Star Yamaha team go down. Unfortunately suffered a concussion and a compression fracture of a vertebrae. Now, I believe that's his upper back, thoracic region, but not confirmed as the vertebral number there. He's going to be out likely for around 6 weeks. Now, whether he's back in time for outdoors is yet to be seen. The fracture is going to be a 4 to 6 week recovery. But the concussion, he's had a concussion earlier this season already, so this is the second one in a short space of time. How significant was this particular concussion? I believe it was a decent amount of time that he was out for. Will that impact the recovery time? Yes, it should. That should make that recovery process for him just a little bit longer. Yes, the AMA has their return to ride concussion protocol that can be completed within 6 days, but there should be adequate medical intervention there and not progress through each of those stages that quickly if there is more issues at hand. Let's hope that Daxton follows that process appropriately and doesn't rush himself back here so that he makes sure, because he is at risk, for further concussions. If he has another one when he gets back on the bike soon. Look at Jeremy Martin in the previous season. He had similar issues where he had a couple in one go. In a short space of time, I should say, not in one go, but in a short space of time, he had a couple of concussions. He's now had to take a very long period of time off, essentially retired now because of it. So worth looking after yourself with concussions. Gage Linville, the man who's been on our show recently, who also then got a podium in that mud race, unfortunately, in qualifying in Philadelphia, made a mistake in the rhythm lane, got himself a concussion, a broken rib, and also another fracture in the spine as well. He also will be out for a few weeks. Likely that is his Supercross season done, unfortunately, given that there's only a couple of weeks left. So Gage in that Dirt Bike Depot team, not clear as to whether he's doing outdoors or not at this stage with that team in a full sense, or if they're going to miss those opening couple of West Coast rounds and just focus into those general East Coast rounds. But Gage should be able to take the time that he needs to get recovered from that as well. Also in Philadelphia, TJ Albright, another man who's been on our show a few times now, was doing some 450 racing in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, the heat race went down and managed to get a bucket handle tear in his meniscus in his knee. Now, that's just a type of tear where there is a nice flap in a particular distribution. They label a bucket handle because it looks like a bucket handle. So he's gone to have surgery to repair that. It is something that can be stitched down, sometimes depending on location and how big it needs to be trimmed. But he'll be able to have that repaired likely, and that is a 6 week plus recovery time. So he will be out until at least outdoors as well. He'll probably do what I was just mentioning, miss the opening round or two that are in the California side of things. So Parla, Hangtown, maybe even Colorado, and then just move into those East Coast rounds on a privateer program. Now, another man, Lorenzo Lacurcio, he's been on our show. You probably hear his voice when he does the introductions in another language there when we do our little show breaks. Lorenzo's been out of country. He goes back home to Venezuela from time to time. That's where his sponsorship and his money for the team comes from. So he goes back and does some coaching sessions and whatnot and races locally as well when there's weeks off. And unfortunately, he's had a bit of a crash there. Got a fractured fibula for his efforts, and he's out for the remainder of Supercross. He will be a big part of the outdoors on a 450, so he will be getting himself ready for that. Looking forward to seeing Lorenzo when we get over there for our few rounds here in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll catch up with Lorenzo and find out how that's all his recovery's going and everything once we see him in person. But yeah, out for the time being. Another training crash. This one was Justin Barsha. Now, he hasn't missed any time, but he does have a decent finger issue. He's managed to smash his finger basically between the front brake and the handlebars, burst his finger open. So he's got a nice laceration on his finger, a lot of swelling. Hasn't been able to use it properly for race days. So he's been managing his way through that, which is not always, the best things. Obviously, we touched on Jerry Robin as well already. I'm not going to bring that up any further. Just that go and head to that Road to Recovery site to donate. And then also Hardy Muniz. We're not sure on the details of Hardy at this stage, but he did have some issues at the end of qualifying and didn't proceed to the main program part, the heat races, the main events. So we'll be looking for an update on Hardy later in the week. If we see that, it'll be on our social pages. So check that out there as well. All right, that's the emergency department updates for this round. Now, all of these riders, they're running on their bikes and they are critical about their suspension setup because that is what keeps them on their motorcycles. Now, if you're talking suspension, Cruise Tune has become a name in motocross and off-road performance suspension parts, and they have things like lowering kits to valving kits, bladder conversions, lift kits for 65 races, and a range of adventure and off-road lowering links. They are based in Melbourne, Australia, and Cruise Tune has a full CNC manufacturing facility. The full range of Cruise Tune parts are available now on technicmotorsport.com. That's right, you heard it, the website technicmotorsport.com that we promote here all the time for your suspension parts and accessories. They have Cruise Tune available on there as well. They have their parts in stock and available for same-day dispatch. They have overnight to almost anywhere in Australia, and they have competitive dealer pricing. Don't wait for your Cruise Tune parts. Get them fast from technicmotorsport.com. All right, let's take a quick break here. We're going to come back into the last part of the show. We're going to tell you how to see all the racing that's happening this weekend.
G'day, guys and girls. It's Dylan Wills here, and you're listening to the Always Moto podcast.
All right, guys and girls, thanks for sticking around on the Always Moto podcast. Let's talk viewing times for this weekend. There's plenty of action to be watching this weekend of motocross and supercross. We've got the Australian motocross round going on at Gilman, like we talked about earlier in the episode. We've got the round for the AMA Supercross from Pittsburgh going on as well. Both of these are going to end up Sunday morning time for the Supercross and Sunday across the day, Australia for the Australian Pro MX. So plenty to do on Sunday from a coverage point of view. So let's find out when we're going to be watching it. Now, all of these are East Coast times of Australia. So that's New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, ACT, Tasmania. If you're in a different different part of the country, different part of the world, you need to find what that converts to. I don't have the ability to do that for all of you guys and girls out there listening. But for Pittsburgh and for Supercross, it's going to be race day live from 3 a.m. Sunday morning. And remember, this is all via the Super Motocross Video Pass. The app is where you want to be. You want to be subscribed. It gives you the whole AMA season. It's the best way for us international viewers to be watching it. You can also do it in a different language if you are more versed in those other Spanish or French coverages as well. But if you're English speaking, just jump straight into it. It works perfectly for us these days. It's a very awesome platform that they've got going for us international viewers. So that's 3 a.m. race day live. The main race program is from 9 a.m. Sunday morning. So we'll be all done by about 12:30. Which will be perfect timing because you're probably going to have to cross over there, have two devices running because the ProMX coverage, it's actually on Facebook on the ProMX page. It's going to be live for practice from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. And then racing is going to start at 12:30 p.m. Now, those times are actually Adelaide times, so you've got to take half an hour back for us. So it's going to be 9:30 start for practice and a 1 p.m. start for racing on SBS when it gets to the SBS sports coverage. That can be via the app. That can be via your TV. Basically all day of racing. But you're going to start with Supercross. You're going to transfer over to ProMX, and it's going to be picked up there from Gilman. So plenty to watch. Plenty of bikes going to be out on different tracks, different conditions, different disciplines. But they all got one thing in common, and they've all got foot pegs on their bikes. Now, if you need some foot pegs for your bikes, maybe you want to update them, get some new ones, get something a bit more meaty, a bit more functional, then you need pivot pegs, and they are super wide pegs. They have a pivoting action, and they help you move around on the bike that will reduce the wear of your boot soles and improve your leg positioning throughout your ride. Highly recommend these. I have them on all of my bikes. Have had for about what are we going back to? 2007. I first got them. So whatever that converts to. Geez, we're heading for 20 years now. I think we're up to 18. So 18 years I've been using these on my bikes. Love these pegs. Check them out at pivotpegs.com and get yourself a set of pivot pegs. They also have them for adventure bikes, not just dirt bikes, but adventure bikes. And they are, I believe, I've been told by my mates who ride adventure bikes, they are game changers on adventure bikes. So check them out over there as well. Now, weather for both of these races. Let's start with Pittsburgh first. Now, Pittsburgh, the weather's going to be between 6 and 16 degrees Celsius. And what's it saying there? It's saying light rain. It is saying light rain at this page. It's a 35% chance of precipitation, so a small chance, but it is saying light rain as the coverage, and that is across the day and into the evening, so not good signs. There's also rain predicted for Friday as well, so there might be no press day riding as well, so the event could be a little bit short. They might go to a rain program as well, so they might drop the free practice session. They might just have the qualifying sessions. Depends on how much weather they get, depends on whether they keep the track covered. So it's a bit happening there for Pittsburgh. It is an open air venue. Now for Gilman in the Australian Oz ProMX on Sunday, the temperature is going to be reasonable. It's going to be between 13 and 19 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, and the rain, there is basically, it says 25% chance of precipitation, but I dare say that says absolute zero by the time we get there. So we're looking good for Gilman. There's no weather really in the forecast leading up to it. Friday looks like it's cloudy, but no rain predicted. It's even less chance of cloud. Just going to be a cloudy day. So look, weather-wise for the Aussie round in the motocross, looking pretty good. And considering it's a loamy soil, even if they do get a tiny bit of rain, it's going to be probably beneficial for the track. They're going to be putting water into it anyway. It will take that bit of water if it does rain. There's none basically in the forecast. So we got plenty of room to move here in case it does rain at all. But yeah, look, weather looking pretty good. 13 to 21 degrees Celsius. That's a pretty decent, 13 to 19. It's a pretty reasonable day. You will need a jacket, but if you're watching, but should be a pretty good day from a rider's point of view. All right, that's the weather updates as we head to those rounds. Now, some other notable events that are coming up in the calendar here in Australia, both obviously as AMA side of things. We do have this round, and we've got two more rounds to follow. After this one, we've got Denver and Salt Lake City. So not much left to go each week here for the AMA Supercross calendar. Then a couple of weeks off, then we hit into the outdoors, which we'll talk to you about probably in a subsequent show or two. From an Australian side of things, we have the next round of the Australian Enduro Championship, the AEC. It is in Tintinara in South Australia on the 31st of May and the 1st of June. Our New South Wales Motocross state titles are coming up. I'm going to be a part of them with the live stream again over the YouTube side of things, doing the commentary. And it's going to be at Dubbo on the 3rd and 4th of May. So not too far away. That's not this weekend, but next. We have the New South Wales Off-Road Round 3 and 4 from Maitland coming up. That's going to be on the 10th and the 11th of May. So that's a nice local round for me. I'm hoping to get out there on the Sunday and do that event. We'll see how we go. And then the following weekend after that, there's a club round that's pretty interesting for any of the off-road riders in the New South Wales area, northern New South Wales area. Armidale Motorcycle Club has their Northern Inland Sprint Series on again. It'll be round 3. It is May 18. So if anyone out there wants a bit of, just some really good sprint loops with a really good club that puts together a really nice event, friendly, family friendly, I can say that for sure. All 4 of us ride this event. We'll be out there. If you want to check it out, head over to the Northern Inland Sprint Series, May 18. All right, they're the upcoming events that I've got down here. Obviously, there's some MXGP things coming up as well after their round that they've just had past weekend in Switzerland. We'll have to see how Tim Geiser goes there as well. Tim Geiser had that shoulder dislocation. Is he going to be needing some work done? Is he going to be able to fight through that? Because this title was pretty much his, but this injury might throw a spanner in the works. Yet to see that. He still leads the championship points, but if he's unable to race for a round or two, that could bring a few other people into play. One of those might be, if he can get his act together quickly here, might be Jeffrey Hurlings. After missing the opening few rounds, he might somehow find his way back into this thing just yet. We'll have to wait and see. But Lucas Coonan, with that 1-1 win there over the weekend, is putting himself into a position here as well to be in a position to challenge for it. So plenty of storylines happening there on the events that are coming up for MXGP as well. All right, that's it, guys and girls. Thanks for listening to episode 138 of the Always Moto podcast. Don't forget to get those t-shirt orders in. Email info@alwaysmoto.com to submit your order. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things injury and moto. Search Always Moto, follow and subscribe. And if your podcast app allows, if you're listening on Spotify, it does allow it. Leave us a rating. Very much appreciated if you could do that, please, just to help us stay relevant in the, find all the suggested podcasts that come up on those apps so that we can find some more listeners to keep coming onto the show to allow us to bring you more and more content. Don't forget to check out all of our written articles over on fullnoise.com.au. But that's it for another show. Thanks to Elite Moto Australia, TechnicMotorsport.com, PivotPegs.com, Competitive Edge Performance, and Tech 167 3D Printing for the show support. Thanks to the wife and kids for letting me get this done yet again, and we will see you at the track.